But I would like to start with you, please, on the idea that the lockdown extension, do you think that actually it's going to cost Boris Johnson votes? Because clearly the people of Chesham and Amersham thought so, didn't they?
Well, I didn't vote for the lockdown extension. Thinking about the points you made before I came on air, I agree that Whitty and SAGE they're not elected, they're not accountable. And to be generous, they're rather like economists. They spend most of their time explaining why their last prediction was wrong. I think the government needs to take back control. We're accountable. We'll be held to account for decisions made. And I don't think that the raw data just didn't justify extending the lockdown. If not now, when? And one of the reasons I gave to my whip as why I was voting against the extension is to put a line in the marker that said, whatever happens, don't even think about extending after the 19th of July. This is getting out of hand. And when you compare that with what's going on in America, particularly New York, where they've got lower vaccination rates than we've got, and they're completely open now.
Yeah, they are. They are
with a very dense population base.
Yes, they are. They are. I mean, in fact, we're seeing loads of stuff, aren't we? Huge sporting events in Texas and things like that. Do you think Whitty needs to apologise now? Because he's got it wrong a few times. And if it is true, which I've got no reason to disbelieve it is true because it's everywhere, this story, that they used flawed data in order to essentially convince Boris to extend the lockdown. Whitty's got to say sorry.
Well, I certainly think that number 10 need to be having a word with him about the veracity of the data that he's using and presenting to the public, and also using it to sell further lockdowns to Parliament. But of course, it's easy when the opposition actually want more lockdowns, longer lockdowns, and all that business. But as far as Chesham and Amersham goes, I think it's a perfect storm, really, for the Conservatives. There are many, many factors. Not the least of it is one of my pet hates, which is HS2, which is a white elephant and unwanted, unloved. And I think I did tell Boris a year last February when he made the decision to press on with the project that it would be an albatross that would be around the neck of both the country and the government. And I think there was no business case for it prior to COVID, and post-COVID, it's shot to pieces. But we appear to be pressing on with it. And that's what happens when you've got a constituency, Conservative normally voting, 16,000 majority, and you inflict HS2 on them against their will. I think there's concern about the new housing proposals. And sadly, I think because poor Cheryl Gillan, one of my colleagues, passed away, she'd been ill for a rather long time, perhaps not as visible in the constituency as people would have liked for understandable reasons. And the people of Chesham and Amersham know that they could have a dabble with the Liberal Democrats, send the government a message, and it's not going to change the government, but it will have set the jitters in a bit in some southern seats. I mean, it was a huge majority in 2019 of 16,000 down to over to an 8,000 Lib Dem majority. But you actually look at it, it was the Labour vote migrated to the Lib Dems, and the 17,000 voters from 2019 who voted Conservative didn't turn up.
You obviously voted against an extension. Why are more Conservative MPs not voting against it, do you think?
I don't think we have enough scientists or people with a science background in Parliament to question the data. And people tend to, we've got a third of our Parliament newly elected MPs. They're pretty loath to vote against the whip. Some have shown some courage. And as far as if it's going to dent political election prospects for the Conservative Party, I think the Bathley and Spen election is going to be a good barometer. I went up there with the team a couple of weeks ago, and it was very positive. I'm taking a team up for the last Saturday before the by-election next, so a week today. And I think we'll have a pretty good idea if anything's changed in the couple of weeks since I've been up there. But I'm quite hopeful. I didn't detect an awful lot of appetite for voting Labour. And of course, we saw what happened to the Labour vote in the Chesham and Amersham by-election, where they recorded their lowest votes in history, I think, and lost their deposit.
I think they had fewer votes than they had members in that area, which is absolutely staggering, isn't it, really? I mean, literally some of their own members either couldn't be bothered to vote for them or voted for someone else, which is amazing, really. But I suppose that's what you get with Keir, isn't it? You'd mentioned there the Batley and Spence by-election, and there's an issue there before we return to the old COVID stuff about this teacher, isn't there? And it's been in the news today, in fact, about a teacher there, of course, who showed the Prophet Muhammad to some kids, and it kicked off, obviously. He's refusing to go back to work. He has even some of his close relatives now don't know where he's living because he's in that much danger, apparently. Look, what's your view on this? We can't have this kind of stuff going on in our society here in a first world country. And it's not the first time, Andrew, is it? I suspect it won't be the last that something like this happens. What do we do about it?
People have got the right to express their opinions, and teachers have got to teach. At the end of the day, there can't be intimidation by one section of our society. And what we also need, which we're not having in this country, is we need equal and consistent implementation of the law across all our communities. Yes. Anything less than that is going to cause huge problems. That's not serving any community fairly, and it's going to create tensions. That's got to be stamped out immediately. Even if it's done for the best of intentions, it's corrosive. But I think Batley and Spen, I don't think anyone's thinking the Lib Dems have got a chance up there. It's a straight fight between the Conservative and the Labour Party. And I didn't detect much appetite for the Labour Party up there. And of course, we've seen some of the leaflets that are going out from the Labour candidate, and it's playing along the party lines on the issues that we're talking about now.
Andrew, I really, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for stepping into the fray for us as you do so often. It's great to have you on board. Andrew Bridgen there, Conservative MP